yourself unless you are recognized to speak. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Please note, under the current circumstances, official meetings of the RTD Board of Directors are being held remotely in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare. For the immediate future, the official meetings of the Board of Directors will be held via Zoom and will be audio and video recorded. Please visit rtd-denver.com to access meeting recordings and the unofficial meeting minutes. Directors and members of the staff, for the sake of the record, if you would like to be acknowledged during this afternoon's proceedings, I would ask you to please raise your virtual hand and wait for me to call on you before proceeding to speak. Directors and staff participating by phone can also raise their virtual hands to indicate that they would like to speak by pressing *9. To toggle your mute settings on the phone, press *6. I would now like to call the roll for the committee members. Chair Busick?
Here.
Thank you. Director Catlin?
Here.
Director Deschelle?
Here.
Director Sloan?
Here.
That's right. And I am here, Director Lewis. For the record, I see that we have other directors that are present. The directors that I see, and forgive me if I miss any, is Director Whitmore, Director Davison, Director Geisinger, Director Cook, Director Williams. I think I got them all. If I missed you, please. Oh, I think I might have heard Director Tisdale earlier. I don't see you on here. Maybe you are. If I missed anyone, please let me know. I'm happy to correct the record. All right, so we will move into public comment. I'd like to open public comment to anyone who would like to address the committee regarding any topic listed in the published meetings agenda. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please either raise your virtual hand or press *9 on your phone. Staff will unmute you when it is your turn to speak. If you are dialed in, press *6 to toggle your mute settings. Please bear in mind that by participating in this process, you are being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, your comments will need to be submitted in writing. If any speaker has documentations or reference materials for the committee, or if any member of the public would like to submit written comments, please email those materials to the board office at the following email address: rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. During public comment, the committee will not offer comments or responses. Directors or staff may contact speakers following their comments if they raise matters that lend themselves to follow-up. Speakers should begin their remarks by stating their names, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Barbara, are there any speakers in the queue?
I see no hands up. I see one attendee, and we had no questions sent forward in the board office email box. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, with no participants in the queue, we will close the public comment period at this time. Directors, you will notice that we have a number of discussion items. And so we'll start out with a strategic plan update, the opportunity to really ground ourselves in the contract for our CEO. So the opportunity to review the contract and performance criteria, an update on the compensation analysis for our general manager and CEO, and then Director Davison, and I wanted to give you all an update on the 360 performance reviews and hear your thoughts in that area, and then wanted to check in with the committee to establish a performance timeline and meeting schedule. And so we'll have the opportunity to have some discussion. And with that, I will kick it over to you, Leah, to give us a strategic plan update. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Lewis. Let me, let's see. I'm working from home, so let me go to share my screen, and if someone could please let me know when you can see my screen, that would be very helpful.
We are seeing your screen.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. All right, good afternoon. I'm Leah Riley. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer, and I'm pleased to present to you an update on the strategic plan. However, before I begin, I would like to point out that after submitting the slide deck to the board office, I discovered a duplicate slide, which was formerly slide 21, and have deleted it in this presentation. In today's presentation, I'm going to cover a refresh on the plan itself, a summary of progress to date, the strategic priorities of community value and customer excellence, including their NPS scores, the metrics identified to make the most positive impact on our NPS scores, and the strategic priorities of employee ownership and financial systems. So first, we're going to begin with the refresh on the strategic plan. Any strategic plan at its core answers four essential questions: why, what, how, and who. The questions of why and what, that is, why does the agency exist and what services or activities should it perform, are answered by its governing authority through its role in setting policy. The questions of how and who, that is, how should the agency go about performing its established functions, and who should perform these functions, are answered by its leadership team, which provides day-to-day management of the agency. What does RTD's strategic plan accomplish? First, it provides clear, measurable, and prioritized success outcomes that RTD is focused to deliver for the community and its customers. Secondly, it provides an action-driven business plan with milestones, budget, and internal executive owners to produce outcomes. And third, it provides a transparent performance scorecard that the general manager and CEO, along with the members of the leadership team, are committed to producing to share how the agency is proceeding to deliver on those outcomes. Organizational alignment is paramount to any strategic plan. In order to produce desired outcomes, there must be clear actions, the right organizational structure in place to execute, as well as talented people in those roles, and prioritize metrics to monitor our progress. The blueprint for success involves the why, the what, the how, and the who, and translates to outcomes driving organizational focus. This strategic plan serves as the functional pillars to plan, develop, evaluate, and measure RTD's overall performance. This slide is a visual representation of a blueprint for success. Its main focus is on how the differentiation of the roles between the board and the agency create the environment to deliver successful outcomes. The board is responsible for the why and the what, thereby determining the agency's mission, vision, values, and success outcomes. With the adoption of the strategic plan, the board clearly defined these four elements, giving the agency direction upon which to focus internal work. The general manager and CEO, in partnership with her leadership team, is responsible for the how and the who, empowering staff to produce outcomes. In that vein, tactics and metrics were established to advance the strategic priorities, and work is now shifting to building internal teams to deliver results, monitor progress, and align resources accordingly. The plan is also structured to be data-driven. The metrics empower employees to examine and explain their decisions, to back them up with data and counteract cognitive biases such as the recency effect, which is the tendency to select the option presented most recently because it's top of mind, and inertia bias, which is the tendency to select options that allow one to think, feel, and act in familiar ways, and confirmation bias, which is the tendency to pay attention only to information that supports a certain viewpoint. A quick recap of the actions that have been taken to get us where we are today. In June 2021, the board reached consensus on the strategic plan framework, supported by an April 2021 study session and a May 2021 strategic plan workshop. In July 2021, the GMOC finalized the general manager and CEO compensation framework, philosophy, and structure. In August 2021, the board adopted the strategic plan. In October 2021, the board adopted committee restructuring and established this performance committee. And in February 2022, the board received a presentation on the community value and customer excellence net promoter scores that were established when the surveys were conducted. So that brings us forward to our current state. In this section, I'll review our progress to date and share some of the systems and analyses we've put into place to support our work. Beginning in fall of 2021, meetings were held with departmental chiefs and assistant general managers to discern metrics for which baseline data is available. A deep dive into the data needed to track progress on the metrics revealed needed system upgrades and/or new cross-departmental collaborations. For example, a metric for system reliability is to reduce the number of delays due to safety and security incidents. However, the transit police records such incidents in our e-force system, and operations records delays in ties. These two systems do not speak to each other, and determining which delays were caused by safety and security incidents will require data pulls from each in a manual cross-reference. Metrics, objectives, and goals have been refined to be more specific. For example, upon adoption of the strategic plan, a few metrics had undefined performance goals. For example, the goal was to establish a baseline and increase by X percentage. That X is now a specific number. In addition, a tracking spreadsheet has been created and populated with baseline data and Q1 2022 numbers. Teams have also met to create a Racy analysis on specific metrics. The Racy model is a tool used to align employee roles to a project to support its success. The Racy acronym stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, and Informed. Responsible is the person who carries out a process or a task. Accountable is the person ultimately accountable to complete the task appropriately. Consulted are the people not directly involved in the task, but whose input, knowledge, and skills are sought. And informed are those who receive task output and need to stay informed. These roles must be assigned to specific team members in order for a project, or in our case, a metric, to be accomplished. This chart is one example of a Racy analysis performed for the metric of lost time from on-the-job injuries. This chart is shared to highlight the level of complexity and collaboration required for one metric that on its face may seem easy to manage. Upon investigation, there are several different functions across the agency that influence this metric. To formulate a plan of action, a cross-functional team from bus operations, rail operations, legal services, and safety is needed. To reduce on-the-job injuries, we must conduct safety training, analyze injury reports and event investigations, and conduct root cause analyses. In other words, because the strategic plan is meant to drive actionable outcomes, not simply report data, we must focus on the how and the who to ensure we are leveraging our systems and people in a coordinated manner. This type of analysis sets us up to have specific levels of accountability, checks and balances, and understandable empirical data systems. These are the things that enable leadership to course correct and improve on outcomes over time. As I mentioned earlier, a performance tracking spreadsheet has been created for the quarterly scorecard in each department within RTD. As you can see in this chart, column 2021 is the baseline data against which current and future progress will be measured. Figures for each metric have been recorded through the end of Q1 and will continue on a quarterly basis moving forward. A tracking mechanism is important as it provides an early warning of potential problems and allows managers to know when they must make adjustments to keep on track. And it also provides a means to identify, encourage, measure, evaluate, improve, and recognize employee performance at work. We will now move to talking about each of the strategic priorities and cover progress to date, starting with community value. The strategic priority of community value is defined by RTD strives to be a strong community partner, providing value to customers as well as to the broader Denver metro region while sustaining planet Earth. The success outcome being measured is the Community Value Index, which is a net promoter score, and increase it by 5% over the life of the plan. As is indicated on page 7 of the strategic plan, the four success outcomes are for the performance period of 2021 through 2026. Thus, the goal is to have a 5% increase by 2026. The Net Promoter Score measures one's experience. It assesses loyalty and word-of-mouth favorability among customers and allows for performance comparisons between organizations across different business sectors. The NPS is a measurement of promoters, meaning those rating a business at a 9 or a 10 in a customer survey, which indicates that they are likely to recommend the business to a friend or a neighbor, minus detractors for those who would rate a business 0 to 6. Those customers giving a 7 or 8 rating are not passionate either way about the business in question and are not factored into the score. The Net Promoter Score for community value garnered by the survey in November of 2021 is -2. Before I discuss the contents of this slide, I would like to note the chart differs slightly from the one submitted in the board report. I have added more data to make it more contextual. The results of the survey, the community survey, were evaluated to create a key driver analysis, which takes each area of service and compares its customer importance ranking against its customer satisfaction level. Our focus is on the areas of opportunity, which consist of areas of service that have higher importance and lower value. These are ranked as highly important to customers and will have a larger impact on overall community satisfaction. As you can see from this analysis, the areas of opportunity are providing access to the region and adjacent counties, providing access to medical facilities, and reducing traffic congestion. In an upcoming section, I will describe how we have identified metrics tied to these areas of opportunity upon which to focus our efforts. Next, we will discuss customer excellence. The strategic priority of customer excellence is defined by RTD strives to consistently deliver high-quality customer service. The success outcome being measured is the customer Net Promoter Score, with a goal to increase it by 5% by 2026. The surveys for customer excellence were conducted in October 2021. Customers were asked their likelihood of recommending RTD to friends and neighbors. The Net Promoter Score for customer excellence is based on 3 different scores from fixed route bus, rail, and paratransit. The NPS for fixed route bus is 38. The key driver analysis for fixed route bus identified fare price, route coverage, and hours of operation as the most important factors to customers. And it also identified fare price, hours of operation, frequency, and on-time arrival as the most important areas of opportunity, followed by safety on the bus and being able to find out if the buses are running on schedule. Fare price is the most important factor to fixed bus route customers, but is the one factor with the lowest level of satisfaction. The Net Promoter Score for rail is 59, and between fixed route bus, rail, and paratransit, rail has the highest Net Promoter Score. The key driver analysis for rail identified on-time performance, frequency, and route coverage as the most important factors to customers. It also identified fare price, frequency, and ease of finding out if the trains are running on schedule as areas of opportunity. And similar to bus, fare price is the most important factor to rail customers, but it's one of the factors with the lowest levels of satisfaction. Next is the Net Promoter Score for Access-a-Ride, which is 49 and is the same as the industry sampled average. On-time performance and drivers being friendly and helpful are the most important factors to Access-a-Ride customers. And on-time performance is the most important factor with the lowest level of satisfaction. The areas of opportunity are improving travel time and vehicles arriving within the scheduled pickup window. So now that we have the Net Promoter Scores for community value and customer excellence, the next step is using the data to move the needle. The areas of opportunity identified in the surveys were combined at a high level in an effort to prioritize the 2022 work plan. This is important because, as the old adage goes, if you try to do everything, you'll accomplish nothing. Synthesizing the areas of opportunity for the customer survey resulted in fare programs, hours of operations, service frequency, on-time performance, travel time, and system information. For the community survey, providing access to adjacent counties and medical facilities, reducing traffic congestion, fare price, regional connectors, and system coverage are identified. In order to act upon the areas of opportunities, employees need to understand the survey results and key driver analyses. Having this information enables employees to strategically engage on how to move the needle. In that vein, education and engagement sessions have been held throughout the agency. And the areas of opportunity have been cross-referenced to the strategic plan metrics to discern those most influential in driving outcomes. The cross-reference exercise identified the following metrics for focus in 2022, all of which will require cross-functional teams to deliver. The customer experience with IT is one metric. For example, the trip planner on our website, next stop info on our buses and trains, and arrival time information at our RTD stations. The completion of Reimagine RTD, specifically the fare study and equity analysis. This metric is very important as it ties to all areas of opportunity for community value and customer excellence. Enhanced focus on system reliability, such as reducing delays, hours of operation, travel information, and travel time. Customer research investments, such as geofencing and targeted feedback to understand where our investments are working and where they need to be tweaked. Safety skills training, including hazard identification and how to report and investigate an incident with a continuous learning mindset. And jurisdictional relationships with a focus on the Colorado Department of Transportation, the Federal Transit Administration, the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and local jurisdictions. This intentional effort to think broadly across functions and teams to bring together needed resources is crucial for success. No system or role can succeed alone, and when we lift our focus up and out of our silos, we better understand the synergies needed to deliver for our customers and community. In addition, further efforts are underway to leverage the strategic plan as a policy framework for important agency initiatives. The recommendations coming forth from Reimagine RTD are being aligned to the success outcomes in the strategic plan. And the work of the RTD Accountability Committee is being aligned to the success outcomes and metrics in the plan. And additional efforts are underway to prioritize internal efforts and assign responsibilities to achieve results. Next, we will discuss efforts underway to support the strategic priority of employee ownership. The strategic priority of employee ownership is defined as RTD seeks to attract and retain a highly skilled and engaged workforce. The associated success outcome is to establish a baseline for an employee net promoter score and increase it by 5% by 2026. Positive steps that have been taken in the area of employee ownership include alignment of 2021 performance reviews and 2022 performance plans to the values and metrics in the strategic plan. The implementation of market competitive wages for both represented and non-represented employees. Hiring and referral bonuses have been made available for hard-to-fill positions. Employee appreciation events have been held throughout the agency, and more are planned in 2022. The professional development program has been reinstated, providing all employees with the opportunity to engage in continuing education, professional development, licensures and certifications, and for memberships in professional organizations. To establish a net promoter score and identify metrics crucial to improving employee ownership, an employee survey was conducted in early May. It was made available to all employees online, and several in-person events were held at various facilities to encourage participation and allow for written responses. A process has been developed to evaluate the data from the survey, leveraging existing committees with membership at all levels throughout the organization to provide recommendations on the areas of opportunity. Once areas of opportunity are identified, the committees will be tasked with engaging employees to achieve success. Engaging employees on how to make progress on employee ownership is not a one-time event. Throughout the year, a virtuous cycle will be repeated to track data, understand how it can be used to make progress, and empower employees to act. Next, we will discuss the strategic priority of financial success. The strategic priority of financial success is defined as RTD takes very seriously the management of all financial resources. The success outcome is twofold. 50% of outcome is that RTD spends less money than it receives, and 50% of outcome is that the community believes that it sees value in RTD spending. Some of the positive steps we've taken to ensure financial success are the 2022 budget was aligned with the strategic priorities and metrics in the plan. The The budget forecast takes into account continued investments needed to sustain progress. RTD's reserves are being maintained, and the asset management plan continues to mature and provides a need to track the state of good repair. Together, a lot has been accomplished in the last year. Our continued collaboration is needed to build upon our many successes. And in this section, we discuss how we can move forward together and what's next. We come back to this slide to reiterate the roles necessary to move the needle. The board's focus on the why and the what will provide the agency with the policy guidance or the umbrella framework for the agency purpose. And the board will be provided further reports enabling you to continue to monitor progress and provide feedback. The general manager and CEO, with support of the leadership team and all employees, will focus on the how and the who to ensure we are leveraging systems and people in a coordinated manner. With a focus on data, RTD will continue to collaborate across functions and divisions to conduct root cause analyses and monitor data to extract and enact needed changes to course correct and improve. So what's next for the board? As previously mentioned, performing the role of setting policy for the agency and providing the why and the what are crucial. Recognizing that this is a 5-year plan, we're developing baselines and prioritizing critical aspects of what matters to our employees, our customers, and the community. None of this can be effectuated without our being good stewards of our resources and focusing on financial success. And nor will we move the needle without our people power, necessitating our continued focus on employee ownership. The board will receive progress reports on the strategic plan metrics and success outcomes. In the fall of 2022, the agency will conduct the second wave of the customer excellence and community value surveys and bring the results to the board for review to discern areas of opportunities and any improvement made. And leadership will provide updates on employee engagement and areas of opportunity. And I know the board will be discussing meeting cadence later on in this meeting, but we anticipate being back to you in the fall with another update. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions.
Great, thanks so much, Leah. Very thorough presentation. Are there any questions for directors on the call? Director Cook, I see your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to wait in case one of the members of the committee wanted to ask, so forgive me if I'm butting in. I had 2 questions. Do you have, under the customer excellence, do you have rail broken out by commuter rail versus light rail? And the reason I ask is safety ranked relatively low in spite of the, considerable publicity we've had about that. Is there a difference between commuter rail, where we've got the second crew officer, whether, or a crew member, whether armed or unarmed, versus light rail where we don't? Do you have that information?
Madam Chair, if I may. Thank you. Director Cook, we did not break out rail versus commuter rail in this survey. They were combined together within the results. And just a friendly reminder, this was done back in the fall prior to some of the changes that you're asking about taking place. So I don't know that that data would have been captured at all.
Good point. Okay, might be useful to the extent that we have the ability going forward at some point to increase a presence on light rail if we find that it's useful in terms of a difference in rating between the two. The second question was, I thought you had said that the goal is to increase by 5% by 2026. Is that the time frame, or is it annually 5% and then accumulating over that time period?
Madam Chair, if I may. Yes, if you refer to page 7 of strategic plan, it clearly articulates the 5% increases over the life of the plan from 2021 to 2026.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cook. That concludes your questions. All right, Director Sloan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I might have missed this, but when will the employee survey results be available?
Madam Chair, if I may proceed. Thank you. Yeah. We just completed the survey a couple of weeks ago, and so a couple of committees are tasked at looking at both the quantitative and qualitative results. and bringing those forwards. And I anticipate that taking probably 2 months before we will have final results that are in a QA, QC mode and ready with recommendations to share.
Thank you, Leah.
Any additional questions, Director Slaw? No, okay. Any questions from other directors on or off this committee? All right. Oh, Director Catlin, you have the floor.
I don't have a question, but rather a comment. And I just wanted to compliment you, Leah, and your team on the presentation. It really brought it together in a very clear way for me, because I thought it was a little bit nebulous a year ago. And I just appreciate the effort that's gone into making this a pretty clear document. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that feedback, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that I had significant help from our from several people in the organization who helped make this what it is, and I will definitely share your thanks and compliments with them.
Thank you. Any other questions from any directors? All right. Well, Melanie, I will actually kick it over to you for our contract review and performance criteria, as well as the compensation analysis. So you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Melanie Snyder, General Counsel. So in addition to driving the agency priorities, our strategic plan will also be the basis for which the board will be evaluating our general manager and CEO and assessing any additional increases in her base compensation or any incentive payments. So today we're going to do just a quick refresher on her employment contract that was entered into, including the amendments that the board adopted. So starting on packet page 50, you can take a look. As you all may recall, the contract also as amended is in your materials as well. So as you'll recall, last year was the first performance period that the general manager was evaluated under. And that was based on the job description that was included in the recruitment for this position before she joined. The board then adopted the strategic plan success outcomes and values. And so starting this year for the January 1, 2022 performance period, the strategic plan metrics and outcomes are going to be what drives the GM and CEO's appraisal. So if you take a look on packet page 57, that is the part of the contract that talks through and breaks out the percentages. There's as you'll see, the GM and CEO is eligible for both a base potential increase in salary as well as an incentive compensation increase. And those would be 50%, 50% split. The adjusted base salary compensation is going to be 25% based on the objective criteria in the strategic plan of the weighted success outcomes. And then 25% of the compensation increase would be based on the more subjective organizational values that were just discussed. So that is the breakout. Timing in the contract sets out that the GM and CEO has the opportunity to provide a self-appraisal. As you recall, she did that last year. Typically, that would be done at the beginning of November, but certainly it's for this committee and the board to determine specific deadlines. But she'd be given the opportunity to submit the self-appraisal for the board's consideration, and then the board must provide an appraisal for the performance period by the end of the year. If that doesn't occur, then the GM and CEO's performance would be deemed satisfactory and would be deemed to have met expectations for the prior year. So the contract also includes a compensation and external benchmarking study that the board would like to have conducted. So that will be used to set the compensation and any adjustments starting in January 1, 2023. So this would be a competitive solicitation with external benchmarking, and that would be used to determine what the appropriate compensation and any adjustments for this position would need to be in order to take into account market information and help ensure that the position remains competitive in the market. So that we are in the process right now. I'm working with our HR team and our procurement team, putting together a statement of work or scope of work. I do plan to share that with Director Lewis as chair of this committee, and of course, Chair Busick as well, before that is put out for solicitation. We anticipate that would probably be put out for solicitation maybe in mid-June, likely open for 30 days with a selection in August, and then likely a presentation to this committee in the September timeframe is roughly what we're looking at. So that compensation and benchmarking would then, the board would take that information and would identify a percentage for potential increase in salary and incentive compensation. I do want to note that in the board packet on page 50, there is a typo referencing a 15%. That was actually something the board originally had considered, but that was eventually changed in the actual contract. So that percentage is going to be determined based on the compensation and benchmarking analysis. It hasn't been set yet. And timing wise, another thing for consideration, the contract also does provide that by November 1st of each year, the general manager does have an opportunity to submit any suggestions for adjustments to the success outcomes or values, and that the board would take those under consideration and either adopt those or make any adjustments before the end of the year, so that the following year's performance requirements are really clear as far as which success outcomes and any weighting adjustments. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, Melanie. Really appreciate it. Are there any questions for board directors? All right, a few. Director Sloan, you have the floor.
Right. This is a question for Melanie, because it is a legal interpretation. And that is, could you explain what's meant by the GM CEO is eligible for these compensation items? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, there will be things outside the control of the agency that will be involved in setting compensation, not just the study, but also general economic conditions. And I just would like an interpretation of eligible for in that context.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
So eligible in that context means, and that is what we're talking about there. Remember, there's going to be an external compensation and benchmarking analysis. So the first step would be for the board to review that analysis and determine what adjustments, if any, need to be made to the base salary and in order to remain competitive. And that's really separate and apart from performance, the GM's performance. Really, it's the board taking a look and saying, what is the appropriate compensation for this position given the market in order to remain competitive in the market? So that might look like, it could be a stepped process. So for example, the board might say, well, eventually we would like this position to be compensated at X level. In the first year, it might be an X percentage increase, the second year, a Y percentage increase, taking into account, for example, some of the economic factors that you're talking about, Director Sloan. So, and eligible also is intended to reflect the fact that this is going to be based on the general manager's performance evaluation, and we don't know what that will be, but it's really, the contract is just setting the parameters of the potential increases for which the GM would be eligible.
Thank you. I have no follow-up.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your response.
Thank you. Director Cook, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think that that got close to what I was going to ask too. In that same work of setting the eligible percentage or whatever, does that also include the determination about the division between base and one time? Is that built into our process here someplace, or is that part of that same process that you're describing?
So the process I was describing would set the percentage increase for which the GM would be eligible for. And then the contract, if you look on packet page 57, in the middle of the page where it talks about, it sets out 50% between the adjusted base compensation and the incentive compensation. So those percentages have already been established, but you would be taking a percentage of essentially the percentage increase that the board determines, if any.
I was thinking I saw someplace that the board would now I can't find it, of course, that the board would have a chance to determine what went to base and what went to one time. Did I miss that? Did I misread that someplace?
I mean, you would be doing that not beyond the 50% distribution that's in the contract currently. So it's a 50-50 distribution. You would determine the percentage increase based on the compensation analysis. So let's say it's 5%. That would mean 2.5% would be for the adjusted base and 2.5 for the incentive compensation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Director Cook. Thank you, Melanie. Are there any other questions from directors on or off this committee? Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And then we can move forward into our next agenda item. So Director Deschelle and I wanted to open the floor for a conversation around a 360 performance reviews and potentially having the opportunity for the board to participate in 360 reviews. If you all are not familiar with 360 reviews, it provides a platform, if you will, for colleagues, subordinates, to provide you with an evaluation. And so the reason that Director Deschelle and I were speaking about this is because we thought what a great opportunity as we were talking about the evaluation of our general manager, the opportunity for us as board directors to really lead and allow ourselves to be opened up to potentially receiving feedback from staff as well regarding our performance of leaders as leaders of this organization. And so wanted to open the floor up for conversation and discussion with board directors to really gauge your interest. Before I do that, Director Deschelle, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Thanks, Director Lewis. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I think, the other important key piece here is that while we've made a lot of progress on sort of directors, I think it's an opportunity for us to work better as a board, but to also understand, if there are directors who are occupying a lot of staff time or getting in the way of the agency being able to perform at its best, that we kind of need to know that. It would be unfair to evaluate the general manager and CEO poorly on an outcome if there was a director or multiple directors who were interfering with their ability to do that or interfering with their ability to manage their staff to do that. And I know we've seen a substantial decrease in directors sort of being in internal staff meetings, but it's also an opportunity for us to all work better together, evaluate one another and see how we can operate best as a board. It's often written about across the HR world as a good practice for high functioning organizations.
Thank you, Director Deschelle. Are there any, before we open the floor up to discussion, are there any clarifying questions that folks might have or need? Director Sloan.
I'm back again. Yes, I appreciate your bringing this up, Chair Lewis and Director Deschelle. But Director Deschelle's contributions seem to focus on other directors as well as senior staff. Who are you proposing to be involved in this 360 review? I know generally there are people who can provide actionable feedback, people who work closest with the employee who's the subject of the 360 review. What are your thoughts about participation in this review? Who would be eligible for it? Thanks.
Thank you, Director Sloan. I will give Director Deschelle the floor, but I will say, I think that's to be worked out amongst us as we have this discussion as how broad or not that we'd like to open that opportunity to receive that feedback up. Director Deschelle?
Yeah, I think, part of it's why we threw it on there, interested in folks' thoughts. I mean, my initial thought is that it would be directors getting a 360 review, and that, the general man is that it would be an opportunity for us to be, again, informally reviewed by those who we work with most closely, where we have a outsized impact on the way in which things happen. So that would be my initial thought, would be that directors would, and we could structure that, whether that's based on committees and different leadership roles, or whether that's people, and it, for the first year, it could be a opt-in, right? If you want to do a 360 review, great. And then see how that goes as a pilot, really open to anything, but just wanted to broach that as an opportunity, because realistically, we all work together to help run a gigantic public company and agency, and having an election being the only sort of method of feedback for directors isn't great. Doesn't provide a strong working environment. And I think it also, to the extent we open it up to more employees, could help contribute to that employee ownership piece of our strategic plan.
Director Sloan, does that answer your question?
I think so. It does sound like to be decided in terms of the scope. And perhaps it would be incremental, starting with just the boards, adding senior staff, and then a wider group. Is that what Director Deschelle was suggesting?
Would you like to clarify? Go ahead.
Yeah, truly, though, I think part of the point of the smaller committees was the opportunity to have that discussion. So yes, as a starting point, but if folks want to dial it back or change it up, there's no pride in authorship here. So really sort of wanted to more gauge interest and thoughts and see where people landed before saying, coming to folks with a fully baked plan.
Yeah. Director Sloan?
Just one more thought, and
Yeah,
that
please.
is that we do need to have a semi-baked plan to take to the full board, because this 360 review process is not now under the purview of the performance committee. So there would have to be a discussion with the board, and the board should have something as a basis for their discussion, knowing that we are responsible for the why and what, and not responsible for the who and how. We need to have something firm to provide to the board that comes out of this committee to actually get consent to perform such a process.
Yeah, sure. Director Deschelle, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I would say absolutely agreed. I think, that's why we brought it here, was in the spirit of collaboration and wanting folks to give their opinions and take ownership. But if the feedback that we're getting is no, I don't want that, I only want fully baked plans, then we're happy to take it back and come back. But we wanted to come in on the early side, because in that sort of collaborative spirit, to see where folks work. So, if you have substance, great. If not, we'll come back with a more fully baked proposal.
Thank you. Director Sloan, I saw you come off mute.
It was a thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Director Sloan. Director Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had similar questions to those of Director Sloan. There are professionals who conduct these types of activities for boards, and I think that we might want to talk to our staff, whether it's Ms. Riley or Ms. Johnson, just to see what resources we might be able to tap to construct this in a meaningful way. And I think Chair Lewis, you are often fond of saying, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And I think we need to kind of have a clear set of objectives if we're going to move forward with this. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Catlin. But very much appreciate that. I was taking copious notes. Director Busick.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I guess I'm still not clear on who, I understand that directors are the subject of the evaluation, so they're the target. But who's doing the evaluating? Is it staff, or is it staff and other directors? Is it just other directors? I can just see a lot of potential for interesting dialogue.
Thank you. Chair Busick, I don't know if we know that answer yet. I think that was the point of bringing it to the committee, to open it up to the board, to say, if we were to do an evaluation, who, what, how would you all like to be, how would you like to be evaluated, and who might participate in that? And so I think, and Director Deschelle, please correct me, that we'd be open to suggestions if you or any directors wanted to throw out what it could potentially look like. I think we're open to that.
Understood. So that being said, if this were to move forward, I guess my preference would be to have senior staff be the ones evaluating directors, so that we can see how that interplay is going between the policymakers and the people that have to enact and make the policy happen. And I think that's the best way to have these evaluations have some substance. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Busick. I have noted that, and I appreciate that preference. Director Williams.
Hello, Chair. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I have participated in a 360 evaluation at a previous agency where I worked, and they're great. They take a lot of commitment on the part of a lot of people. In theory, the people above you evaluate you, the people below you evaluate you, your peers evaluate you, and you evaluate yourself. And then all four of those pieces, and that's why it's called a 360 evaluation. It traditionally involves those above you, those below you, those equal to you, and your own self-evaluation. And those pieces are put together. So I don't know who would be at RTD above me. So I don't know who would be filling in that piece of the 360 evaluation for openers, unless kind of maybe we already got that from the Accountability Committee. I can see that there are 2,700 people in theory below me in the structure of this organization. So that's a lot of commitment. Then the directors would be evaluating each other. So each of us would have to do 14 evaluations. And then, of course, we would do 15 because I would have to do myself. So that's been my understanding. And I'm not sure what the purpose of all of that work would be. I'm not opposed to it. If it helps me to do a better job of what I'm doing, then I'm down with it. But that is a whole lot of work for what to me at this moment is an undefined goal. So I would ask that the first thing we do is define the goal of this exercise in one sentence to make us do a better job of running the agency, just as an example. And then I'd be willing to talk about it further. And thank you for letting me have my 9 cents worth. It was a little more than just 2.
Thank you, Director Williams. I don't see why we could not do that, as Director Catlin said as well, to clearly define the problem as well as the objectives. And we could put forth a proposal with the preferences that you all have stated, and get some feedback and insight from you all, and continue to work on it until we finalize it into a product that I think the board would be proud of. I'm so happy to do that. Any additional questions or comments from Director Deschelle? Sorry, I've talked a bit more than I anticipated, so I'll give you the floor, Director Deschelle, if you'd like to opine.
No, I think all that is helpful, and we will thank you for those of you who provided direct feedback on preferences. So we will take those and whip them up into a proposal and then come back.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was all I had on this particular item.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you all taking the time to have that conversation with us. So we will move on to our next agenda item, and that's really establishing a meeting cadence and timeline for the performance committee. As you all know from the presentation that Leah was able to give, and some of the information that Melanie was able to provide as well, we should check in regularly. And so wanted to check in with you all to see what might be a good cadence, if you all are able to do it in this moment, for when you all would like to meet on a bi-monthly, bi-weekly, by whatever, and what might work for your schedules as well for the members of this committee. So again, opening the floor. General Manager Johnson.
Thank you very much, Director Lewis, Chair Lewis. If I just may add, as you all have a discussion relative to the meeting cadence,
Please.
Recognizing what Ms. Riley outlined with the second wave of the customer value and customer excellence and community value surveys, and then the cadence relative to the performance of me and my stead as the General Manager and CEO, I would put forward for your consideration that as we look at a meeting cadence, probably in September, it would be much more regular than we did, because we are establishing baselines, and as we go forward, recognizing the foundation for which I will be assessed, there'll be information that's forthcoming in relationship to what Ms. Snyder shared as well. So I would presume that we look at September, and there could be meeting in September. In October, potentially there could be 2 in November as well. So I just wanted to frame that just by the discussion and what was outlined, just for everyone's edification and consideration. Thank you very kindly for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for that reminder. I really appreciate you bringing that back into the conversation. I am more than open and love to hear from other directors. If you all would be open to having a meeting or scheduling at least our next meeting when we have that information and that data in September, and then establishing a cadence for more regular committee updates and check-ins.
Yeah.
Chair Busick. Oh, sorry, Bobby.
No, Chair Busick was first. I forgot to raise my hand.
Okay, Chair Busick.
Yeah, so I suppose the best thing to be would to, start where we need to end and work backwards. So if we have to end with a final performance evaluation, figure out how long it's going to take, and work backwards and determine a cadence that way. I think, early efforts may be worth doing if it helps us in the end. But we have to wait for some of this data to come through. So, but if we've got a process, we can identify a process and how we're going to take that data when we get it and plug it in. All that could be helpful. So. We're at the midpoint of the year, and I wouldn't think we'd want to do anything less than a monthly meeting from this point forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Deschelle?
Thanks. I think, yeah, I agree with the chair. I think there's an opportunity, on the one hand, well, yes, we need to wait for the data. There's also unless I'm messing up my percentages, half of the evaluation, which is subjective based on the values, based on the board values. And I think there's a great opportunity there, both to provide informal, non-binding feedback on the more subjective component. And also, Director Lewis, maybe to flesh out a bit more the board evaluation idea that we had just talked about, recognizing that I know we don't meet in August, so it would be, and this is June, so I guess that would be one meeting in July, and then the monthly meeting in September through end of year.
That's your suggestion? The
That would
first
be my
meeting in July,
suggestion.
and then
Yeah,
kick it back off in September?
Yeah, do a meeting in July and then take August off. I think everyone is not meeting in August, unless chair can keep me honest there.
I'm not.
so it'd be, yeah, my proposal would be July. Tie up any loose ends. We could come back with a more formal thought process on the 360 review. We could talk about the possibility of sort of an informal values feedback, and then push out September, October, November, and then no meetings in December either. Right, Chair? I think
we might actually have to have a meeting in December.
Or have to have one of these in December, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to speak about that, General Manager Johnson, or
Sure,
yeah, go ahead.
sure thing, Chair Lewis. I would just add for you all consideration as we go forward, recognizing that the holidays are in that time frame, and as we did, in 2021, there were meetings that were held, and there were a special board meeting, but it's contingent upon the timeline, to the point that Chair Busick had raised, looking at when we want to have the performance evaluated, completed. If that's the end of November, perhaps we wouldn't have one, but I think it's contingent upon a different element. So while we said we would go dark, the notion behind it, and Ms. McManus could speak to this as well, it was the notion that previously, there were meetings scheduled like 2 days before Christmas, just because that was the meeting cadence we had. So I just offer that up just as point of reference. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other directors, suggestions? Well, it sounds like, and correct me, anyone, if I'm wrong, it sounds like that you all would like to meet in July. We take August off and then establish a cadence, at least at minimum monthly, to meet with this committee. Would anyone? Does that sound okay? I'm seeing some thumbs up. It's not official vote, but I'm seeing some thumbs up. And then would anyone have any objections to us keeping it at this time on whatever the first Wednesday of the month, or does that collide or clash with anyone's schedules? I want to be mindful of that. Okay, I'm just going to assume that your silence is compliance, and that we'll move forward with our next meeting in July, and then establish a cadence on a bi-monthly, or on a monthly basis. Oh, Director Deschelle.
Yeah, that works on my end, except for October the 5th is Yom Kippur, which is a Jewish high holiday. But I can also, the world will not end if I miss a meeting. But if possible, it'd be great to, other than that first Wednesday in October, it looks like that should otherwise work.
I think we're early enough, if there are no objections of other members of the committee, that we might just move that one to the second Wednesday of the month to honor your participation in that holiday.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Are there any objections from both board members and staff? Well, you're an easy bunch. Are you checking calendars? I don't want to move too fast. Okay, yeah. I'll give you a second to check your calendars. General Manager.
Yes, I don't know who's participating, but I would be remiss to state that APTA's Transform Conference will be in Seattle, Washington, which commences on October 9th. And basically would probably conclude on Wednesday, the 12th, but I just offer that up because I know just your recent board action reinstated board members' travel budgets. And I know that this board, from my engagement with Ms. McManus, has participated in the APTA Transform Conference. So I just wanted to call that out for everybody's edification on the 13th. But that doesn't necessarily mean people will be there, but I just wanted to call that out. And then in reference to July, it's July 6th after the 4th of July holiday. Not a big deal, but just wanted to call that out just as this is right after Memorial Day, but it shouldn't be a problem for us as staff. I know the conversation really is going to revolve around you all as directors, but just wanted to offer up those comments. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you flagging July 6th. And I'll let Director Deschelle know that I will not be available on that date, actually. And so you'll be in charge of this meeting in July. I don't know if directors, oh, wonderful. Thank you. That was easy. I don't know if directors know if they're going to the APTA Transform conference, excuse me, just went completely out of my mind. But if there are any, could you just maybe give me a wave? Otherwise, we can schedule it for that day with no objections.
I might go to that conference, but I'd be back in time for the meeting.
You would, okay. Okay. Thank you, Chair Busick. Any others? All right. Perfect. Okay. And if I might, would anyone have, okay, I keep telling you can go and then I tell you a lie. So here's the truth. Would anyone have any objections to us maybe potentially moving the meeting in July to not be after the holiday? Immediately following the holiday? Like, is anyone else not going camping with their family? Just me?
Do we want to, Director Lewis, maybe just given this in October, just choose the second Wednesday at this time?
Beautiful. I
Second
love
Wednesday
it.
of the month. I don't know if that creates other issues in September, but let me.
Oh, I'm seeing some faces with Director Busick there. And Director Williams, I see your hands up.
Yeah, it's been my experience as somebody who's run monthly meetings of all kinds that our GM is spot on. Again, that right after the 4th of July is tough time. People tend to book their vacations around that, either before it or after it. And so frequently you don't get good attendance. Hopefully you get good attention, but you don't get good attendance immediately before that or after that. So I just wanted to point that out. And there's no reason that you have to stick to, this date. Move it if it, send out a doodle poll.
It sounds like, thank you, Director Williams. It sounds like, oh, go ahead, Director Busick.
Yeah, second Wednesday works for me, so that matters.
All right, beautiful. Yeah, no, that was my next question. It sounds like, I just grabbed my calendar quickly, that folks might be available for the second Wednesday. So maybe we can establish that as our meeting cadence. Great, I see a yes from you, Director Catlin, Sloan, Busick, Deschelle. Beautiful. All right. Well, are there any other matters? I wore you out, huh? Oh, Director Sloan, there you are.
Just one more thing. This is kind of going back to earlier. I do appreciate your trying to think of ways to make the board more effective. And I think the 360 review is a thoughtful approach. So, I want to commend you for thinking of that. And, all the ideas like, well, what would that mean? Doesn't mean we're against the concept, but that there are a lot of details to be worked out. But thank you for working on board performance as well as the rest of the agency, because we're critical to the performance of the agency.
Absolutely. Thank you, Director Sloan. And I have to thank Director Deschelle for thinking about our growth and development as a board. Great. Anyone else? Any other matters? Oh, Director Deschelle, looks like you came off mute.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, wonderful. So based on the timelining meeting schedule and the comments that were just made, our next meeting will be on Wednesday, July 13th at 1:30, right here, wherever you are. Oh, sorry, General Manager Johnson.
I know we all want to go, Madam Chair, if I may.
It's okay, yeah.
Yes, so we're clear as it relates to staff and in preparing for the agenda. So it will be, the topics of discussion will be the 360 review and things of the like that Director Sloan just referenced. But we could talk about that. I just wanted to make sure that we had an understanding, because about the expectations and what we need to do to support the board and being prepared for discussion. That's all.
That's my understanding, General Manager Johnson. But Director Deschelle, would you add anything?
Nope.
Great, there you are. All right, thank you so much. All right, so next meeting is July 13th, Wednesday, July 13th at 1:30 here on Zoom. I see no other discussion, so the meeting is adjourned as of what, 2:41 p.m. So I'm in California. I got confused. All right, y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.